Welcome, Alison, Mikey. I think you're in a forum which is of enormous relevance, the International Stress Awareness Day. And I'm so glad somebody took the initiative and launched such a forum, such a day, such a movement, because somehow over a period of time, this whole phenomena of stress has just grown and grown and grown. And I don't know whether we have on the side by side found a way to make sure the stress doesn't continue to grow. So I think having such a day to talk about the awareness of something which is as dangerous as worrying, I think this is an important event to have, and I'm so glad we are here, and I'm sure together we'll be able to bring a lot to how best we can address this situation, how we can find a solution to this. A solution has to be found. There is really no two ways about this. I do believe that we need to address the issue of emotional pollution too, and that is stress. And if we don't do that, apart from the fact that this emotional pollution is going to bring us down, it will bring everybody around us down too. That's what happens. I mean, we know if I'm happy, I make people around me happy. If I'm miserable, oh my goodness, without knowing, I'll bring everybody down with me. We know that there is stress. We know there is tension. We know that we've come out of a very difficult situation for the last 18 months to 2 years. I think we should also think in terms of saying, what do we do now? What can we do to A, help the people who have been in this and who are struggling with this? B, how do we prevent this tomorrow? And this, if you're able to start something like that, I'm sure there are people in DLC. There are some, I can almost see thousands coming up together and saying, we can make this a really powerful movement and bring about the change that the world desperately needs today. Right? Would you be able to start by saying, what do you think the current situation is as far as the seriousness of the affair is concerned, of stress is concerned? Are you over-exaggerating the whole thing, or is it really there?
Okay, first of all, I seriously don't know what stress is.
Okay.
So I would say creative use of imagination is creativity. And destructive use of imagination is stress. So stress is everything about imagining, because stress is never in the moment. It's about what was and what will be. And none of them are existential realities, so to say. Trafalgar, a 4-year-old boy, when left alone on a beach by her maid at 4 a.m. when her parents were out for a dinner, and when they returned, they asked the boy, when they didn't find the maid around, and asked, "Didn't you fear?" And the boy asked, "What is fear?" Because the boy was never taught fear. He never learned fear. We've learned stress, the multimedia around us, beginning from our parents, and this entire end of the spectrum of the society is literally indoctrinating us with fear and stress. This is the problem. So, stress doesn't have its own existence in reality, as darkness doesn't have its own existence in reality. So, to bring darkness in, you have to switch off the light. Okay, to throw darkness out, you have to switch on the light. You have to work with light, because light is the reality. There's no reality to darkness. So there's no reality to stress. You shut your eyes, shut the theater of the mind, breathe out everything that you've collected in your junkyard of your mind. I've created an acronym. MIND is Mindful Insights Neutralizing Duality. All that fragments you, all that divides you, all that scatters you. So empty your mind of the junk and fill it up with the light of awareness. And there you go. Light on, stress off. And live simply in awareness of the time, and be so total into it that you become total, sharp, and absolute, like laser. Now, the acronym for laser is light amplified surgically emitted radiation. so pinpointed and focused that you can't go wrong. So this is all about the anatomy of stress, and you can breathe it out, you can laugh it out, you can sing it out, you can bathe it out, you can soak yourself in the sun and deal with it. Okay, you can take an air bath and deal with it. You can get lost in the infinity of the sky and get dissolved. You could let gravity of the earth absorb it and dissolve it and dissipate it while you're lying in Shavasana. So it's all about letting it be, letting it go. One of my fifth books, which I'm writing, called Curd Karma, is all about you take little curd, take lots of milk, you mix it together and leave it for 12 hours. What would happen if every hour you were to put your spoon inside and stir it? The curd will never be formed. So let it be, let it go, let it flow, be synchronized, get energized, get life optimized, get Mickey-mized.
I love it.
Alison, what do you think?
I love it. Well, I love that, Mickey. That's really, really brilliant. I think that a lot of the time in the modern world, we are losing the whole point of everything. Because if you imagine what we have available to us these days, how many vitamin pills can you buy? How many health shops are there? How many magazines are there? How many studios are there? Yoga studios, Pilates studios, everything. There's so much more for us to manage our stress, yet we're still ill. And why is that? And I think that goes back to Mickey's comment, is that we are so focused on the external and that whole word, the buzzword of stress, when we're running around like headless chickens trying to find a solution that actually doesn't exist if we just check in with ourselves. If we could just check in with ourselves and take space and not fill up every single minute of the day. I don't think it's about vitamins, it's about fitness magazines, it's about this and it's about that. It's about being more internal. It's about being a bit more spacious, taking space in the day. The mind needs space. If you keep filling up the mind, then it's going to start complaining, or you're going to start feeling it physically as well. And I think that we just need to slow down and just need to be in more being rather than doing. Top and tailing the day, not picking this up the first thing in the morning. Why are we doing that? Why are we addicted to our phones? It's causing the mind to be filled up with stuff. We just need to disconnect more, and we don't need as much stuff as there is out there. We don't need that. We need more peace, and we need more beingness and more
Absolutely.
wisdom.
I like these two words both of you had used. Mickey, I got the name right. Mickey, you use the word awareness, which is, to me, is one of the most beautiful and loaded words ever. And Alison, you use the word internal, and both of them are actually so together, And it's true. We do need to find that inner space, which is one of a lot of silence anyway. And only then can awareness blossom. I mean, when does awareness come up? It comes up only when the mind is not flitting to what happened yesterday and worrying about what's going to happen tomorrow. Invariably, when the mind has gone to what happened yesterday, there's a sense of anger, or there's resentment, or there's regret. It's just moved you away from that internal space. And when it's going to the future, it's worrying about something that probably might not, it could be just a figment of your imagination, as Mickey was pointing out earlier. So now I'm thinking, if what we're looking for is the emptying of that mind, which is buzzing over time, and we're looking to create or bring about that sense of awareness to so many zillions of things within and outside, how do we do it? Where do we start? Who takes responsibility? Who's going to make that happen?
The buck stops at you, which means each individual. The very word individual is indivi, which is indivisible, and dual means duality. So there's a paradox here. Indivisible duality, which means you are that one which cannot be divided. And it is in that state of being absolute, which in Sanskrit we call it kevalya. Okay? So in that state of absolute, and in Ashtanga of yoga, we call it pratyahara, which is internalizing of senses. When your 5 horses, instead of running hither-thither, they become one. And when 5 senses come together and become a common sense, which is the most uncommon, awareness prevails. You don't have to find awareness, fish for it, hunt for it. There's no treasure hunt. You simply, in the state of being, simply in the state of seeing, simply total, smiling, spontaneous, intelligent, not intellectual, because intellectual are constantly analyzing, and the intelligent people are constantly synthesizing, putting things together and trying to understand life out of the whole, completeness and totality. So awareness is all about being internal, about putting your senses, bringing them together as one. Namaste. And Vasudeva Kutumbakam. It's not about this universe of outside coming together. It is your inner universe. All the stars and suns and the planets and the earth, they all moving in synchronicity, sharing each other's light, sharing each other's vibrancy, vibratory frequencies, and thus in absolute harmony. So awareness is, I mean, this sounds all rocket science, but it actually could be lived. Don't please practice it, because you could be in practice and you could go out of practice. So meditation, yoga are not to be practiced. They are to be lived. You have to breathe it. And primarily, fundamentally, everything starts with a breath. I always tell people when they ask me, Mickey, what did you have for breakfast? I said, I had breath for breakfast. I soaked myself in the sun. I took an air bath. I listened to the chirping of the birds, the bees. I looked at the trees, took its energy. And because we are corresponding, our energies are corresponding with that of our ecosystem, that of our environment. We can only be alive and aware if we are alert and aware with the coexistential reality with different forms of energies, animate, inanimate, whatever. There is oneness, a hidden oneness in the fabric of this universe, and it begins with flowing out. So the flowing out of the breath which goes out releases all the physical tensions to start with, psychological and emotional toxins to follow. And what you breathe in is unifying energy. Because when you take a breath in awareness, I have called in my book, The Shunyam Quotient, aware relation, not inhalation, aware relation. So you're aware of every breath that goes in and what comes in with every breath. So the Radha which comes in becomes Dhara and goes out, and Radha and the Dhara continue its cycle, and this cycle of life is called Sansara. From this Sansara of living comes the Sanskriti, and this Sanskriti takes birth our Kirti, which is our Karya, Kirti, and from that that should become our religion, which is our Dharma of life. So Karma of life becomes your Dharma of life. So awareness, awareness translates into Karma, Dharma, Kirti, Karya. And all this starts very simply with breathing, consciously, all right?
Alison, if I can take the question to you, that was amazing, Mickey.
Yeah, amazing.
Alison,
Yes, so sorry. Absolutely, yes. I couldn't agree more. I think everything is about expansion or contraction, and things will actually be expansive to you and you can expand your awareness, or you'll feel constricted. And one of the ways that I notice it in the mornings, and Mickey said, you know, he has breath for breakfast, and so do I have breath for breakfast. And I had to, just as an example, I had to do something the other day, and I had to go onto my computer before I started my practice, and I noticed the constriction. So when I get up in the morning, I go into expansion and I have breath for breakfast. I do my practice. And then I step over the threshold of my day from a place of expansion. and being aware of what throughout the day makes you feel constricted and what throughout the day feels expansive. And once you become more aware of that, then you can have more of the expansive stuff. You know, who do you spend your time with? Who's your peer group? And I think Buddha said that one of his disciples asked him about the importance of practice and how important the people you surround yourself with. And Buddha said that's the most important thing, who you surround yourself with. You know, people who are able to help you expand rather than constrict. So, you know, I've also written a book about breathing because I think breathing is the most powerful tool to the human being. And there's a different breathing pattern for every single emotional state. And I've experienced that myself because from my own journey, being a chronic insomniac for many, many, many years, it took me a long time to understand how I was breathing and how the breath affected every single moment and how I could completely change my state of mind with one deep breath. So I look at it as expansion or contraction. And I think that we are contracting and not expanding. And I think that's where the stress is coming from. We need more expansion.
Yeah, that's so beautiful. That's really true, as both of you have indicated. We have understood the importance of breath, not just to keep us alive. Breath is way more than just breathing in and out to keep us alive. But I'll still come back to that one issue, and the reason why I say it's an issue is about 10 days ago, I was addressing the students and staff of a university in Delhi. And I realized that while we talk so easily about whether it's awareness, whether it's about the breath related to your very health, to your mind, to the body, for them it was almost like saying, "Oh my God, I'm hearing it for the first time." Right now, I am not going to even take an adult. If I take a child of 5 or 6 who is already worried about, will I, pass a simple test for 10 minutes to get an admission in kindergarten too? Or whether when I go back to school, how is it going to be? When I go into the school bus, I'm asked to sit in another place and give enough space. There are so many things that we might think is very small and irrelevant, but which we cannot put down the importance of that. So again, I come back to the thought, what do we need to bring about this awareness in people that, you know what, you don't need to search very far to find that health within you. It's not difficult, but to get them to understand, one is either they are not, when you're very worried, or when you're very preoccupied, or when you're full of your own perceptions, sometimes it is very hard to drop it to listen to something new. And you will find there are people who find it immediately, they might not really understand what you're saying. They probably might come back to you after a few months, a few years. I've seen people do that, right? So I am never worried about people who catch on like that and they say, yeah, I know what you're getting at. Let me come here right now, sit with you for about 2 hours per day, 3 days, and I've learned this technique and now I'm practicing it. It's working brilliantly. I am concerned about the people who are not getting it. And I always come back to this one issue, is the fact that, are we inculcating this important aspect in our educational system, which really has to start from the very beginning? For the first 4 years, 5 years, you have your parents who will give it to you. But when you're in school, are we able to inculcate that into our curriculum? I always feel that if you start it young, it's easy for everybody, whether it be for the parents, for the person, or for the society. It just makes it easy. And I still believe that we still haven't managed to put that into our educational system across the globe. I'm not saying it's not there at all. There are, little corners where you have them, right? Whether it could be as an extracurricular, it could be in your little community, it could be a Sunday school, it could be something like that. But to be able to put that into your curriculum, for example, we teach this phenomenal breathing technique called the Sudarshan Kriya in the Art of Living, which was actually born 40 years ago. And I've seen, and obviously I've been a practitioner of the breathing technique for the last 25 years. And not only that, I've seen it being practiced to the tens of thousands of students who've learned this technique. And they've obviously benefited from it. Now, a few colleges and universities in the US, some of the colleges and universities in India, they have started putting that as a credit course, not necessarily as a compulsory program, but as a credit course. I'm saying that we need to think in terms of saying yoga should become part of a curriculum. Value system should become part of a curriculum. Simple things that we today call it as simple, you can actually keep it simple when you're teaching a 5-year-old or a 6-year-old. When they become 15, it's no longer simple for a 15-year-old brain. The 15-year-old brain is rebelling. The 15-year-old brain does not think with that state of expansion that you and I can think. What do we need to do to make sure that they get it at an early age? Because I still believe that nowadays, once in my time, probably they said 19 was still young. Today, even 9 is no longer young. And so it concerns me, are we preparing them along with the speed at which they're all growing up? And I put that in quotes, that growing up is complete only when that education is also holistic, when the education is actually preparing them for not the next year when they go into grade 1 or grade 2 or grade 10, but for the coming 40 years, for the coming 50 years. You never know when there's going to be a next pandemic. So this is a preparation that I've always been concerned about, is that are we doing enough to make sure that it becomes part of an educational system? What do you think?
So my take on this is very, very clear. Do you guys remember there was a game when we were children, we played LON London statue?
Yeah.
So there was a philosopher called Gurdjieff. So have you heard about Gurdjieff?
Yes.
He was born out of the West, and he was a phenomenal, a revolutionary philosopher. How he understood the whole Eastern stance of pause and stop, from from being disoriented to getting back into orientation and then start again. So it was a reset button. So LON London statue, and we had to stop from whatever we are doing. So the whole thing is that from whatever children are doing now, and they are seamlessly being trained. I'll give you a very small scientific understanding of why today's children are becoming robots, machinistic, mechanical in their behavior, insensitive, very abrupt knee-jerk reactions, and lack of emotion, and very scant regard for love. So 6 o'clock, 6:30 in the morning, the big alarm goes off. And the child has barely slept for 5.5 and 6 hours or 6 hours, he is dragged from the bed. And then he is stripped. Then he is put on the pot. Then the brush goes in his mouth. And from the other hand, the hand shower comes. Barely he has finished his brush and the shower, he has forgotten about his pot. Absolutely. He is pulled out, he is dried, somebody is making him wear the shirt, and somebody is pushing the cornflakes inside. Somebody is making him wear the shoes. In exactly 35 minutes, the cargo, which we call the child, is packed up and dumped in the bus. He's lost the rhythm of life. There is no synchronicity. There is no flow. So the breath is scattered, the breath is fragmented, and the child is not fragrant. Okay, the fruit remains raw. The fruit doesn't blossom. The fruit doesn't nourish itself, flourish itself. So we have to stop what we are doing with the children. Number one, can you imagine, more richer you are, more wealthier you are, more classes, the child suffers. The neighbor is learning piano, the child has to learn the piano. The next neighbor is learning violin, the child has to learn violin. Somebody else is doing tabla, you'll play tabla with him. Somebody is good in math, you'll put him in the math class. And the child is dealing with the school and the classes. The child doesn't get room to breathe. So in the method of meditation, the most important part is not the inhalation and averelation. The most important part is the gap between the two. The transformation doesn't happen in the breath in and the breath out. The transformation happens in the space, in the gap. So in the discontinuity, there is perpetuity of life and life grows. So when we say, I need space, when we say, there's an idiom in English, we say, let the penny drop. That means create space for things to get reoriented. So there is no space given to children. So we should allow space to children, for them to grow. So we must recreate them. And that means recreation. So simple. Recreate them with recreation. Let them play. Let them experience open fields. The meadows, the valleys, the fountains, the mountains, the trees they have forgotten. You know, we used to bask in the sun. We used to lie down in the lawns. We used to roll in the mud. We used to get dirty in the muck. And we used to be so immune. You know why? Because, you know, today after being evolved so much, I've come with this understanding that immunity is nothing but I am unity. I am in tune. I am immune. So the children have fallen out of tune. We have to bring them back in tune. If you were to see the, you know, how does a film work, literally a digital frame, I think per second there are 22 frames. And between each frame there is a black. It is because of the black you see the continuity. It is because of the discontinuity there is continuity. So the gap in children's life is a must. So we disrupted our children's life with a lot of activity. Now let's disrupt it again creatively by allowing them to stop where they are. Let them reorient. Let them breathe easy. Let them realize they've got something like lungs. Let them realize they've got something like a diaphragm. Let them realize that there's something called 5 lobes which they have to fill in. Barely they would fill in 2 lobes of lungs. And the child remains vulnerable, susceptible completely to all kinds of diseases and infection. Perennially we have children with running nose, sore throat, high fever, and medicines after medicines. So the pills follow the ills, and the ills back again follow the pills, because the medicine destroys them once again. So we have destroyed the innate intelligence of every child on this earth. We are turning them into machines, and God save us.
That's so true. I love your expressions. And your phrases, I think they're really beautiful. Alison, what did you say? I mean, what do we need to do to, I say, if you want to reach every child around this world, and that's what we want to do. You can't afford to have one part of the world, under stress, another part of the world happy. It doesn't happen. It just does not happen. We need to make sure that it is our responsibility to make sure that people really know how it is to lead a life which is not so based. Little stress here and there is different, but to be basing your whole life on stress and tension is that's not living at all. What did you say to that, Alison?
Yeah, I think I thought what Mickey said was really wonderful about the pause and the transformation that happens in the pause. We all know about the pause between the inhale and the exhale, that lovely come back, that spaciousness, that fertile spaciousness. And I think that children, where is the space? There's no space. Why is there no space? Because they're in front of phones and iPads and computers. When there is any space, they're not out in the fields, as Mickey said. They're not breathing the air. They're not using their lungs. They're sat with their shoulders rounded, with their heads down, looking at a screen. And that is going to have a number of different effects. Obviously, posture. I have seen kids with round shoulders, 15-year-olds with round shoulders. What's going on there? Round shoulders means poor breathing, right? Poor posture, poor breathing. And I think that the kids are not having any pause. So as Mickey said, they're up in the morning, they go to school, they do that, and they get home, they're in the car, they're straight on the phones. They're at home, they're on the phones, they're on the iPads or whatever. I think there needs to be some boundaries around technology for children, apart from the fact, the physiological, the breathing. What about the mental? What about what is that doing to their brains? I have parents coming to me saying, what can I do? My children aren't sleeping. You know, I don't actually work with children because I don't get involved with, you know, I can't get involved with parenting because a lot of things are down to parenting. So I only work with adults. But it pains me when I hear that kids aren't sleeping. It's a natural part of a human being to sleep at night. Children need to sleep. They need enough sleep. Their brains need enough sleep. They do not need to be in front of a screen, blue light, in their bedroom, in any possible space that they have. And I think that that is a thing that we have forgotten, that children need. They need fresh air, they need space, they need to play, they need to express themselves, they need to communicate. I don't see that happening. I see a lot of constriction, more constriction happening with children instead of expansion. And I worry about the future generation. I really, really do. I do have a lot of conscious friends around that actually do consider that, but I see a lot of people with children that are hyperactive, look at their diets, they're on crisps and McDonald's and lots of high sugar. And as Mickey said, you know, the ills and there's the pills and then there's more ills. And that is very worrying for the future and very stressful for parents when they see their children, you know, being ill, not being able to focus or not having any communication skills.
That's true.
You know, it's a very difficult.
A few months ago, I was writing an article on stress, and I do believe that across the world, across the globe, it has to be a very conscious collective effort. If you're expecting either only governments to take the responsibility of bringing about these the awareness and then the changes, I think that's being short-sighted. I think somewhere along the line, we need to make sure communities get involved, societies get involved. Let there be groups. And apart from setting up groups to give out the support, to give out the guidance, I think it's also important for us to make people understand that, look, there is a place for you to go to and get that support, get that help. Very often, and I've seen this, it's not in any one part of the world, it's across the world again. There is a certain stigma. People are a little conscious about going and telling somebody that, you know, I'm very stressed out. I'm worried about not having employment. I'm worried because my finances have gone down. I am so tensed, you know, I'm depressed. So somewhere we need to make people understand that, look, there's a door that's actually open for you. And this has to be an ongoing exercise. We need to constantly reinforce the fact that, you know what, you're not alone. We are here for you. And this is something that everybody has to take responsibility for. Communities have to do it, societies have to do it. If we are able to do this and everybody takes responsibility, I think two things happen. One is people know they're not alone and there's a support system waiting for them. Number two is I think you are empowered when you reach out and you give. You know, and I think this is something that Alison, you had mentioned earlier as well. I think this is something that we really need to work towards. So I think this is a collective responsibility. It's a must. I can't see a way out of, you know, I wouldn't want to think in terms of moving ahead in life, knowing that most of the people out there are not able to experience that joy that you are. The happiness which is already there. It's not novel. It's not something that you go and pick out of a shop. It's not something that you get out of having 10 degrees next to your name. It's there already in you. And there are zillions of ways that you can just discover that. And once you've discovered it, when you've seen the highest pleasure, then small pleasures don't give you anything at all. You would never veer towards it, right? So I think this is something that we need to be very aware of. We need to keep pushing it, till the whole world wakes up and says, you know what? It's not the end of the world. Not at all. We've just begun. And when you've just begun, you have all the energy in the world. If you think that you're reaching the end state, you're exhausted even before you start. So realizing that you're just in that beginning stage and you are fresh, there's so much happening for you. Let's go for it. But this has to be reinforced by numbers. The more vocal we are, the more we come together in forums like this. I think DLC could give enormous amount out to the world. And this is what makes me feel so very hopeful, and there are people who have so many questions. Shall we just take some questions that people have come up with? Mickey and Alison, if I can just come up with these questions. There's Dr. Sundardas Annamalai of our Singapore chapter. He has asked, how do you plan to solve issues of emotional overload?
Should I take this first, Alison?
Yes.
Let's make an exception to the rule.
All right.
Okay.
Ladies first.
Males first.
Okay.
I'm bubbling with energy and I'm childlike at 60 and I'm always so much, wanting to do and be and at the same time. And coming to what you said, that of course, addressing the International Stress Day, it's very important to tell people that there is no escape outside. So there is a Rumi's quote which goes like this, that I've been living on the lip of insanity, knocking at the door opens, I've been knocking from inside. So that's very important. So we have to teach every human how to escape within. There is no escape outside, because life is an ocean, it's not a lake. Life is not a still lake. Life is an ocean. And in this ocean, the surfer has to find his quotient of center while being in the movement. Now, that is very important. So while being on the circumference moving, you have to be in a meditative frame of mind. Meditation just doesn't mean cut off from everything and just say hands up, oh my God, oh sorry, whatever. So that's number one. There's a very small story I'd like to tell all the kids and everybody who's so stressed out there. So there was a monk in Japan on the 80th floor. He was giving a discourse, a Zen master, and suddenly there were tremors of earthquake and 50 odd disciples, they ran away. Right, exactly 45 minutes when the tremors settled, they all came back and settled in their seats. And when they were all settled, the master opened his eyes and started from where he stopped. And when everything got done, the disciples couldn't, just hold it back and say, Master, when there were tremors and everything was shaking, we escaped, why didn't you? So he said, wherever you escaped, the tremors were there. Where I escaped, there was no tremors. So we have to teach this world to shut your eyes and escape within, find that still space in the abyss of absolute darkness, where deep within you'll find illumination. Once again, spirituality is all about paradoxes. So in the deep darkness abysses of life, where you will find illumination within. And that is the moment, euphoric. And this is what we need to teach the world. That cut off, shut off, pause, and simply be. Don't do, because we are counting. So we count calories, we count salaries, we count our reps, we count our sleep, and we become accountants with our lives. So stop counting, start being, and stress will disappear.
Right? That's true. That's
Yes.
very, very true. Yeah, Alison?
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. Stop counting and the stress will disappear. I love that. Yeah, no, I agree. And I think the thing is that we as a society avoid space. So people try to fill the space because they think they've got to fill the space. They've got to fill the space. They've got to fill the space. And the mind has this war on reality, or we think the nature of the mind has this war on reality, right? It doesn't actually want to be in the present. You try to keep the mind in the present for a nanosecond. It doesn't want to be it doesn't want to be, because it's like, well, what am I supposed to be doing? because there's this vastness. I think there's this fear of the vastness, but when you get into the vastness, all you find is peace. And I think that we need to educate people to just stop filling, and just stop avoiding doing nothing. We have to stop avoiding doing nothing.
Absolutely. And that actually is meditation. Meditation is doing nothing.
Yeah,
People think
exactly.
it's effort. My God, it's actually, I think it is complete no concentration experience. You don't concentrate. You don't do anything. I mean, you're trying to move away from all this stress and tiredness caused by effort. Why would you want to sit again and close your eyes and put in more effort? Right? The space of deconcentration and actually the end result of that is good concentration. So you don't need to, do anything. And people are normally a little nervous about going into meditation because they think it's so hard. I might not be able to do what. Well, there's no comparison in meditation. Today is one experience, tomorrow is another experience. There is no effort. You just sit, a few minutes, and that's it. And I think that is something that's going to be necessary for us to make sure that people heed and practice right from the beginning. It starts, if you actually, babies actually meditate. Over a period of time, as we get older, we forget that we have also done finger postures in yoga. Alison, you would have also read so much about it. Yeah. There are so many, mudras, as they call it. There are finger positions, right? And each one has a certain connotation. Children have been born doing it. Children have been born doing, different breathing techniques. Children have been born meditating. But somewhere, along the way, we seem to have forgotten that. And that's okay. That's fine. That's the way it is. It's time for us to bring them back.
Yeah, I think 0 to 7 children by default are in the state of confluence. They are in the state of congruence. Absolutely. They are in the state of consonance. They are also in the state of resonance. But we disturb it by, literally telling them what to do. Didn't you tell your parents, and don't our children tell us, let us be? Let us be. Yeah. And the most important part of a natural self-realization we got to teach the world is how to self-actualize. And a very good Michael Jackson song comes to my mind. Do you mind if I sing it in my voice, which is horrible?
Go right ahead.
Go.
I'm looking at the man in the mirror. I'm asking him to change his ways. And no message is loud and clear. If you want to make a world a better place, better look at yourself and make that change. And then let this world get self-realized, self-actualized, get Mickey-mized.
Really awesome. Here's another very interesting question. Alison, maybe you'd like to take that. According to you, this is from Nivedita Ramanujam of our Hong Kong chapter. She's asked, according to you, has social media increased or decreased stress levels?
That's just social media. I think social media, maybe it does have its place. Of course, it has its place, but it's the addiction. It's designed to get us addicted to it. The scrolling thing is addictive. And I think it's a huge problem, especially for young people, especially for young adults, like teenagers, because you don't have control of what they're looking at. I've had experiences with clients and people that I know who have found the stuff that their children are looking at. And it's really, really scary. And I am sorry that is out there on one level for children. I don't know how we can move forward from it, but it's there, and we can't take it out of society now because children grow up with Facebook. But they do well to not be allowed on Facebook till they're 21, because there's so much stuff on there that influences their brain and their mind in a negative way. you know, as Mickey said, you know, they need to be outside, you know, learning about nature, breathing the fresh air, playing, building, creating, not watching mindless, literally rubbish on social media that's affecting their whole being, their cells, their well-being. And yeah, I feel really, really, really strongly about it.
It does. In fact, this is an issue that I had raised a few days ago and I'd written a little piece on it. Especially when you have a social media platform like Twitter, for example. There is so much of anonymity, you know, and I feel that that level of anonymity takes away your actual essence of who you are. You decide to put a profile, a DP, which is, it could be anything, right from a joker's face to a celebrity face to you know, a scenery or whatever. So it's not showing you. You don't have your actual name over there. So you feel that in that space of anonymity, you have the license to say whatever you want without taking any accountability or responsibility. Now, if to me, if that is not self-destructive, I don't know what is. You're definitely destroying people around you by saying whatever you want without trying to put some kind of a break on your thoughts before you bring it out. But I think it's highly self-destructive. And this is something that really I think about because I do go onto social media and I do follow what's happening on Twitter, for example, but the level to which they actually deceive themselves, it's self-deception. And to me, the self-deception is such a loss to the beauty that you are inside. Instead of seeing and experiencing and having other people see the beauty, you have decided to descend down to a point of one day you'll forget yourself if you haven't already forgotten yourself now. You know, this is definitely I thought was one of the cons of social media. And nothing is bad, and I never call anything as bad, but I do think that if you don't have the strength and maturity and the wisdom to know where to draw a line, when to draw a line, then it's highly detrimental to your own self. And then, yes, you would go through stress, you would go through tension, you would go through a lot of self-hatred, maybe. And then, of course, you start disliking everything around you. Instead of seeing the beauty around you, you see, and inside you, you see only mess. Mess will bring about stress, you know, and this is, so here's something for Mickey. Mickey, here's a very nice question that's come from Lake Mantori of our London chapter. I don't know if I got the name right, sorry. What's the importance of stress management in terms of staying physically fit?
Okay, so let me tell you that fitness is not the be all and end all of everything. Fitness is at the lowest bottom of the pyramid. So fitness gives you strength, stamina, agility, body fat ratio, you know, your muscular tone, and fitness is done with. Then beyond fitness, one notch up on the ladder of evolution comes health, which is organic unity, heal thy, heal them, heal thou. The etymology comes from Latin. And that gives you, you know, the unity of the cellular community for immunity for humanity. So that gives you immunity. Then let's go to wellness. Wellness is all about homeostasis, psychological equilibrium, emotional buoyancy. Because when the bottom two pillars are in place, you are circulating, you're breathing, and automatically you're not stagnated. Automatically you're flowing, automatically you're in rhythm. So rhythm gives you psychological well-being and emotional buoyancy. And then you go to the highest stage, which is well-being. So well-being is all about being resilient, being patient, being tolerance, having clarity of mind, being focused, having a vision, being purpose-driven, etc. So the importance of stress to fitness is that don't add stress with fitness. So let your workouts be a celebration and not a punishment. Let every coach and trainer of the world not teach you to push you to take more counts, more reps, more intensity, as if you're a mule. Come on, guys, we are neither mules nor we are horses. We are human beings, we have to work smart. Okay? We have to work little and have maximum effect out of it. So intelligent workouts and recreational workout will beat stress of monotonous, HIIT, monotonous, CrossFit, monotonous, kickboxing, monotonous, weightlifting, upper body, lower body. I mean, this is a world which goes around in circle of the matrix we are caught in and whatever we are taught. So the indoctrination of the markets literally have got us by our goat. And unfortunately, 99% of fitness coaches of the world, they've fallen a prey to that. They have to learn to step back, step out, and be creative in their workouts. So if you're creative in your workouts, there won't be any stress. Now, most of the fitness workouts, they focus a lot on contractions. And most about health is all about expansion. So yoga is more about stretching and opening up for your life forces to flow. So we have different kinds of vayus inside us. So one is prana, the prana vayu, which is responsible for the entirety of the function of the human system. Then the second vayu is vyan vayu, which is responsible for the function of the heart. Then the third vayu is the saman vayu, which is responsible for the digestive processes. Then there is something called apan vayu, which is responsible for elimination of toxins. And the last, when you're completely aware and integrated, there is something called Udan Vayu, where literally awareness of the higher and the subtler realities of life, your perceptions widen up, your perspectives grow. So the more you contract here, the more you contract here. The more you open here, the more you open here. So a flexible body gives rise or births a flexible mind. So instead of saying why, you will say why not. Instead of being life negative, you'll be life positive. Affirmative, always. So fitness, when with recreation combined with easiness of being, with lightness of being. I mean, just look at Baba Ramdev. He winks with one eye, makes us laugh. Look at Ravi Shankar ji. He is so light. Look at Sadhguru. Ha, ha, ha. I mean, you go to gurus which make you laugh, don't make you serious. Because anything about contraction and constriction kills your digestion, kills your endocrine, kills your nervous system, and your body is in the fight-flight mode. And where you're in the fight-flight mode, you're depleting of energy, whether it may be fitness, because you're constantly doing the warrior rope. Oh my God, there is so much of madness happening in so many gyms. I mean, I laugh, literally laugh.
Yeah,
So
absolutely. I think it's fantastic. See, we can sit and talk for hours on this because I think we speak from both a lot of experience, a lot of knowledge, a lot of learning. And I think this last maybe 45 minutes or so has been fantastic because you've understood definitely the importance of adopting various methods to make sure that we're not stressed out, people are not stressed out. And I really hope all this message reaches to the whole world, to everybody, whether they are stressed or not stressed, that there are many creative ways of staying fit, being without stress, understanding that stress is not really something that is really there. It's in your hands to actually come out of that situation. And somewhere along the line, there has to be a collective effort to make sure that, people, number one, come out of stress and people don't get into stress. I think this is going to be a collective effort, and I hope the world is hearing this and everybody takes responsibility for this. Before we end, it would be very interesting to have a quote from each of you to for this International Stress Awareness Day. What quote would you come up with? Alison, what about you?
I think that a quote for International Stress Day for me would be, let go and let God. We can't control everything.
Wow.
We just have to just let go and trust and take a deep breath.
Amazing. Mickey?
Okay, for me, I would say that speed is death. So speed is stress. Stress gives death. And cold is stress, cold is death. So be relaxed, don't be in speed, and be warm. Love everybody. Love is the single most creative energy on this earth. Love brings immunity. Love gives rise to humanity. Love gives rise to high quality souls. I mean, we are all born to be gods. So Krishna, Christ, Muhammad, Mahadev, Zarathustra, Buddha, they were human beings, but they became gods because they blossomed, they nurtured themselves. So only a man can rise higher than gods or fall below animals. So choose to be conscious, choose to be aware, love everybody, and let compassion get maximized, love get initialized, get Mickey-mized.
That is a phrase I'm not going to forget for a long, long time, Mickey.
Yeah, thank you so much. Thank you so
And
much.
I really think, yeah, I've always believed that, and I think this is something that's probably been with me since I was a baby, maybe, because that's what my mom tells me. I've always believed that smile is a sure sign of success. If the smile is coming, success in whatever, success as a 5-year-old, success as a 50-year-old, success as a 90-year-old, it really doesn't matter. But smile, if the smile is there, you are successful. And that's what life is all about. So that's what makes life a celebration, isn't it?
Perfect.
So let's all pray that we have a world which is going to be free of this stress, and they're going to blossom. And that blossoming happens only when we have got rid of stress. Thank you so very much, Mickey, Alison.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you,
It's been
Prema.
a wonderful time, and I'm really hoping that we get together again soon.
Yes, thank you
bring
so
so
much.
more to the
Thank you,
people.
DLC.
Thank you so
Thank
much.
you,
It's been
Jimmy.
an honor.
Thank you, DLC.
Thank you,
been an honor.
DLC.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.